Tervetuloa Vaasan yliopiston Vuoden tiedeviestijätilaisuuteen. Good afternoon and welcome to University of Vaasa Science Communication Award ceremony. This year the award will be granted for the third time. It will be granted to a person or team that has successfully popularized science for the wider public. Vaasan yliopisto palkitsee 3. kertaa Vuoden tiedeviestijä. Henkilön tai tiimin, joka on onnistunut yleistajuisessa tiedeviestinnässä tai osallistunut aktiivisesti yhteiskunnalliseen keskusteluun. Varsinaisen palkinnon lisäksi tänä vuonna myönnetään myös yksi kunniamaininta. Tiedeviestintä on tärkeä osa yliopiston Se voi tärkeältä osaltaan lisätä tutkimuksen vaikuttavuutta. Tiedeviestintä myös vahvistaa yliopistojen ja yhteiskunnan välistä yhteyttä ja luottamusta, mikä on hyvin tärkeä asia näin aikoina. Voimme olla ylpeitä siitä, että niin moni Vaasan yliopiston tutkijoista on tehnyt hyvää työtä tiedeviestinnässä ja osallistunut yhteiskunnalliseen keskusteluun. Kiitämme tästä kaikkia tutkijoita ja koko yliopistoyhteisöä. Yliopisto haluaa kannustaa tällä palkinnolla tutkijoitaan aktiiviseen tiedeviestintään ja yhteiskunnallisen keskustelun osallistumiseen. Palkitsemme vuoden tiedeviestijänä henkilöstöjohtamisen professorin Liisa Mäkelän ja hänen LEADIS-tutkijaryhmänsä. The University of Vaasa Science Communication Award will be granted to Professor Liisa Mäkelä and her LEADIS-team. Paljon onnea. Congratulations.
Kiitoksia kovasti. We are very thankful as a team. I'm really proud of being a leader of this LEADIS-team. We have been doing a good job and also communicating our findings about remote work to wider public as well. Thank you, University of Vaasa, and thank you, my team, as part of them are here today as well.
Ja vielä Liisa täältä tätä viisautta osoittava muisto teille ja koko tiimi. Ole hyvä.
Kiitos kovasti.
Suuret onnit.
Kiitoksia.
Ja seuraavaksi the honorable mention in science communication will be given to Assistant Professor in Finance, Dr. Klaus Grobys. Kunniamaininnan hyvästä tiedeviestinnästä saa rahoituksen tutkijatohtori Klaus Grobys. Onnittelut. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy and very proud of getting awarded this honorary mention from the University of Vaasa. During the last year, I have been doing different things. I have been running a YouTube channel in order to provide my education for free. I have been giving different expert takes in fintech blogs and also some interviews for the local media. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ja seuraavaksi puheenvuoron saa vuoden tiedeviestijä palkintoraadin puheenjohtaja professori Merja Koskela, joka kertoo palkintojen perusteet. Ole hyvä.
Kiitos. Hyvät palkinnon saajat, honored awardees, and university personnel and all the public. Tämä yliopiston perinne jakaa palkintoja ja kunniamainintoja tiedeviestinnästä on tärkeä osoitus siitä, että yliopistoyhteisö arvostaa paitsi tieteellistä julkaisutoimintaa, myös sitä, että tutkimuksesta kerrotaan laajemmalle yleisölle. This award shows the appreciation of the university community to those who share their work with the public and the general public in particular. I am the chair of the board who went through different kinds of achievements that our researchers at the University of Vaasa have had last year. And this year, we wanted to highlight the dialogic approach to science communication. And therefore, we ended up with Liisa Mäkelän and the LEADIS-team, as well as Klaus Grobys here. Seuraavaksi kerron joitakin paneelin argumentteja näiden valintojen taustalla. Ja meillä on muun muassa tällaisia argumentteja täällä perusteluissa. LEADIS-tiimin työ on loistava esimerkki siitä, kuinka on tartuttu tutkimuksella ajankohtaiseen aiheeseen, eli etätyöhön, ensin opettajien etätyöhön ja työhyvinvointiin, ja sitten vielä laajemmin etätyöhön. Eli on esimerkillistä, miten koko tiimi on yhdessä alkanut tehdä onnistunutta tiedeviestintää ja tuomaan omaa panosta yhteiskunnalliseen keskusteluun. Toinen argumentti on, että tiimi on aloittanut tutkimuksesta ja teemasta viestimisen jo tutkimusta käynnistettäessä, ei vasta tulosten julkistamisen jälkeen. So we have been enjoyed the work of the team during the process of the project and not only after the project. Eli tämä on sitä modernia tiedeviestintää, jossa tiedeviestintä ulottuu koko tutkimuksen teon ajalle, eikä sitä tehdä vasta tulosten saavuttamisen jälkeen. Tiimi on myös oivaltanut, että tarve tiedolle on ollut nopeaa ja sitä on onnistuneesti popularisoitu erilaisille yleisöille eri kanavissa. Ja tiimi on myös kokeillut ja etsinyt ansiokkaasti uusia tapoja viestiä ja vuorovaikuttaa. Käytössä on ollut sosiaalisen median kanavista LinkedIn-ryhmä, Twitter, Facebook, oma blogi, webinaarit, verkkoluennot, perinteinen media, tutkimusraportit ja tutkimusartikkelit ja lisäksi etätyökompassisivusto, jossa on monenlaista tiedeviestintää ja käytännön vinkkejä. Yksi tärkeä argumentti on vuoropuhelu ja sitouttaminen, kun puhumme dialogisesta tiedeviestinnästä. Kiinnostavuutta ja seuraajia blogiin on saatu tuomalla sinne erilaisia genrejä ja kategorioita, kuten tutkijakynä, asiantuntijakynä ja vieraskynä. Ja esimerkiksi vieraskynä on hyvä tapa sitouttaa erilaisia tutkimuksesta kiinnostuneita tai hyötyviä kohderyhmiä. Ja kohderyhmien puhutteleminen näkyy vielä siinäkin, että sivustolla ei ole pelkästään työnantajille annettuja vinkkejä, vaan myös runsaasti vinkkejä, työkaluja työntekijöille. Eli eri kohderyhmät on ansiokkaasti otettu huomioon. Kokonaisuutena Liisan ja LEADIS-tiimin tiedeviestintä on esimerkki siitä, miten tiimi toimii hienosti yhdessä ja yhdessä viestimällä saa moninkertaistettua vaikuttavuuttaan ja sanomaansa eri areenoilla. Onnittelut vielä ryhmän puolesta. Then we go to Klaus Grobys and the arguments that the selection team or the board had. Assistant Professor Klaus Grobys is a good example of a researcher who has adapted well to the modern logics and requirements of media presence and visibility. Klaus is always willing to share his results and research in different channels to different publics. Moreover, he is active in contacting and thereby has good cooperation with the university's communication experts, and it is a skill to use the expertise that is available. Similarly to the LEADIS team, also Klaus works with a topic with high actuality and broad interest among different publics. Klaus has located new international arenas on which he has shared his results, for example, in international blogs and websites. However, he has good contacts in Finland and locally as well, where he has, for example, visited Hanken's podcast. Through these activities, Klaus has acquired media visibility in Finland and abroad, from Vaasa Insider to Forbes, and last week he was nominated one of the most interesting characters of the week in New York Times. Klaus has created his own channel on YouTube, Klaus Grobys Finance Channel, recommend for the public, where he publishes lectures and expert discussions and makes them available to his students, but also to all other interested people, not to mention journalists. Congratulations ja onnittelut palkituille Raadin ja omasta puolesta. Kunniamaininta kannustaa myös muita tutkijoita kehittämään viestintäosaamistaan ja olemaan rohkeasti mukana yhteiskunnallisessa keskustelussa. After all, it is us, the researchers, who have a duty to emphasize the importance of scientific knowledge and research results in today's complex world. We can not only have an impact on what people in general think science and research is all about, but we also have the possibility to influence decisions about the use of research results, and finally, we may even have some say on political decisions about the terms and conditions for academic work and researchers more broadly. So thereby, I conclude this part with the arguments, and we will proceed with a panel discussion. So I invite the panel to join us. In the panel, we have Liisa Mäkelä, Klaus Grobys, and Tommi Lehtonen, who was also a member of the selection team. So please join us and take your seats. We will start this panel discussion with some slides, selected presentation, where I give you some food for thought at the beginning. And after that, we will proceed with some discussion. But we will start with the presentation, and let's see if the technical arrangements work. So let's start. So we are now talking about what is science communication, just to begin this panel discussion. So science communication can, of course, be defined in many ways, and it is a broad concept. And we can say in general that science communication is a multifaceted process of knowledge exchange within the research community and outside. So there is always the side that we communicate with each other, but we communicate with the broader public as well. So we can have different perspectives. We can look at science communication as one-way communication, which is often the case when we produce research results in articles, so to the academic audience. Then there is the dialogue, which we have with peers, with people we work with, and our colleagues, where we have discussions and feedback. And then, more than too often, science communication is seen as translation. There is this general idea that science communication is some kind of a process of interpretation where complex research findings are put into a language format and context that non-experts understand. But I want to stress that it's not only about choosing the right language and choosing the right words, but that it's more often what we want to say. It's not only the how, it's often what we want to say. And science communication is a complicated thing. Oh, there we have sharing a kind of a chart where science communication can be divided into professional science communication to the academic audience and general science communication, where we talk to another kind of a public, the expert public, that is people who work in practice with the things that we do research on, and then general information to those people who are not into what we do. And we can talk about consultative science communication, which is for professionals, professional outlets and experts. And we can talk about deliberative science communication when we go to popular science, which is for interested public, science journalism, which is for everybody, and then social media in research communication. And all of these channels require that what we say is correct, what we say is understandable. But the more we come to science journalism and the general public, it has to be interesting and it has to be entertaining. And that is always a question. Who is interested in what and what is interesting for whom? So one thing one can do is to choose a topic which you think might be interesting for those that you are addressing, a specific public or a general public. So in general, research says that the general public finds new findings interesting, persons are interesting, stories are interesting, and feelings are interesting. But not everything is interesting that we as researchers think is interesting. And for example, methodological considerations are not interesting for the larger public. Details, such as numbers without any explanations, conferences, small awards, are often not interesting for the large public. Then I wanted to say something about social media, because that is something that is a kind of a key question in a modern science communication. So I'm here sharing the picture of daily use of social media in Finland, where WhatsApp is the most common channel. And what researchers use most are blogs and Twitter. And blogs have 12% of the population as users, and no, 8. Blogs have 8 and Twitter has 12. So basically you can say that it's not about the large public, it's who there is. So when you go to blogs and when you go to Twitter, you know that you have a certain type of public. But I will end up my presentation here, and we will continue with some discussion about our topics. So in the beginning, I would like to ask Liisa and Klaus to share their ideas of their case. So what did you do and how did you achieve what you did? Liisa, can you begin?
Well, yeah, thank you. And thank you, Merja. It was really interesting also this your presentation about the topic. Well, there was quite many things that lead us to do what we did. But first of all, I think that because we are studying remote work, and we started immediately when this corona pandemic started. So I think it was one day after there was this kind of everyone at the home offices. So we started to think with Hilpi Kangas and Jussi Tanskanen that we should definitely do research about this. And we started with teachers, because we thought that is definitely one kind of occupation that really goes through big changes. And we started to collect data. And at the same time, once we collected the data, the pandemic continued and there was a big hassle in the society. And we thought that we can't wait to collect everything, analyze everything, but we just need to start also telling about the findings to the teachers, to other people who are interested about that thing. And then we started a blog. It was the first way when we thought that could be a good idea. And we shared the blog writings also in the social media, different kind of channels. Then we got a contact from a company. They were also interested about the topic, and we continued the discussion there and got some funding, and we were able to also collect a great team. And then we had more resources also for the communication. So then it also started to begin, and related to the funding, we also promised that we will provide knowledge information to the remote workers, employers who are having remote employees. And then we had this Etätyö Kompassi, so this big website where we have these different types of, so there is information about the digital working applications and things like that. Then the blog came one part of it. And then then we just made that kind of plan with the help of our own communication and our team, that how often we will publish something, what are our plans to tell about these things. But yes, perhaps this tells a part of it. So we also got many contacts from the media. So there was one of our team members, Johanna, was also interviewed in Yle, and I was interviewed for Swedish radio, and then there was different types of things where we were able to tell about our study findings.
How was the reaction from the audience, the public? What kind of contacts and questions and reactions did you get for your?
Yeah, we have also get feedback, and I think that the most important ones has been, of course, from our perspective, from the remote employees, who have been sort of saying that thank you, that is really useful. The supervisors who are leading the remote workers, and they have been telling us that, okay, there is a good package of information that we can use in the working life. So I think that has been the best part of it, getting feedback. But then we have also got contact from other researchers, and that kind of collaboration in the academia as well. So this has been a good starting point, and I think that it was a good decision, not sort of to be scared of telling your findings already from the very beginning, and then thinking that someone might steal your findings or your ideas, but share them and openly discuss about them with different kind of audiences.
Thank you, Liisa. Then to Klaus, what's your case? Can you just describe how did you get into finding your target publics and deciding what to share and how? How do you do it?
Yeah, looking back, I think that my story began in 2018. It happened to be that in the beginning of that year, I was becoming interested in one YouTube channel from Dr. John Peterson, who is professor of psychology at the University of Toronto, and he uploaded also some of his lectures for free and provided education for free, high-level education, I would even say. And yeah, I mean, I got thrilled of this idea to provide education for free to anybody. And at the same time, knowing that many of our master students already work in Helsinki during their master studies, I thought, well, how can I contribute? Well, maybe I can also run a YouTube channel, but then with finance. So that was basically the idea that I had to running this YouTube channel, where I then also distribute my lectures to anyone else. But of course, I mean, only students here in Vaasa can take the examination, of course. But it turned out to be a quite good idea, since I got quite positive feedback from our students and also from students in Stockholm and in Germany and in Malta. So it seems to be that it paid off somewhat.
So your first audience were students. Did you imagine the other kinds of publics to be interested in your?
I mean, not in the first line, since back then I created this channel for students only, and also, of course, for anyone else who's interested in finance education and who's interested in getting to know the basic methods that we use in our discipline and what is up to date. Of course, my lectures are usually up to date. Every year I go through the latest journal articles in the top-notch journals, so people can easily get also a good view on what has recently been discussed in the finance literature. So it is also for keeping up to date.
So one of our criteria with your work was that it's international. So how would you describe the feeling or the requirements that you need to have when you want to reach the international public?
I would say that you need to use a channel where that is also where also international people are the users, and YouTube is I would say a channel where we have the international audience, basically, and especially young people, in their 20s or 30s, and this is basically my target group, at least when it comes to teaching.
Thank you, Klaus. We had this one question about what do you think is good science communication? So let's include Tommi. And Tommi, can you share your ideas of how do you think, what is good science communication about?
Okay, that's a very, very big. Definitely one could expect that there are not only one type of good science communication, but several of them. If I come back a little bit, especially to the LEADIS-tiim and what were the factors or reasons behind their successfulness in science communication, I guess that it comes immediately in one's mind at least two important things that a good science communication or popularizing science should include or could include. And those two things are, first of all, a certain kind of topicality. And of course, in the case of remote work, as Liisa told, the LEADIS-tiim took up that topic immediately after the remote work in general in Finland and in many other countries was started, and this topicality is rather obvious. That in the case of remote work in Finland and many other countries, it's a topic that share a kind of common human interests, for the reason that there are so many people in Finland and other countries who have their own experiences in remote work. And I would say more generally that if any researcher is able to frame his or her science communication with certain kind of topical aspects or topical features, and is able to find some general human interests that are related to that topic, that's probably one might say that the forecast for success is rather positive in that case.
Thank you, Tommi. Then we have a question that I would like to put you all, and that's about current and future trends for science communication. So there are new media like TikTok and things like that, and the LEADIS-tiim took blogs in a very specific way to their use. But how about art meets science and things like that? Experiments, citizen science. What are your views, Liisa, of the future and current trends and the future of science communication? How do you see it from your perspective?
Well, I think that there is huge possibilities. And of course, currently taking account of the situation that this is really sort of a special event that we are here physically. So I don't see that is in a very near future, those big events where we can come together physically. But of course, virtually, there are lots of different kind of possibilities where we can use. Of course, these blogs and social media, I think that most of us have already understood, the researchers, that that's the way how to tell about your findings to your colleagues, but also to the bigger audiences. But I really would like to see more that kind of sort of a dialogical events where the people, for instance here, the remote employees and the employers, HR people, researchers from different for instance, from different countries come together and discuss, have facilitated discussion. For instance, we had really nice events in our LEADIS, very end of it, where we invited the company HR persons, supervisors, and there was our researchers. But this in a bigger sort of event, virtual event, where we can really share the experiences from what is happening just now and what people are thinking about, and the researchers can learn a lot and they can give a lot.
So basically dialogue means that also researcher gets feedback and they get new ideas.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Liisa. Klaus, what do you think about the current and future trends of science communication?
What I have observed lately is that the video podcasts are becoming more and more popular. And I think that's where we are going, where we are heading to, probably. Because it's obviously easier and people don't have to travel anywhere, and experts can meet in cyberspace and have the discussion, and people can follow it and maybe even ask questions, giving comments. I mean, there are many possibilities nowadays using digital media.
Thank you. That's a very good idea, because that might be dialogic as well. I think, is there a question from the public?
Yes, there is a question from the public. Helena Saarela asks, or says, congratulations. I would like to ask Liisa and Klaus, which channel you have found to be the best for research? Personally, I like LinkedIn, but Twitter seems to be more common. Or maybe it is best to use both for both of those. So what do you think, Liisa and Klaus?
Well, I think if I may start, so I think that, well, my team members would be more knowledgeable about this, but my experience is that the LinkedIn, if we think about these channels we have used, that was perhaps the place where the most of our people, the target group members, are. So in the professional sense, I think that was the best. Of course, I'm not really good in Twitter, so I think that we could have made much better there as well. So that's something that's really promising as well. But I think that for us, if we think what we have used, the LinkedIn was maybe the most important one, sharing our blog texts and our issues there. So, yeah.
So basically combining channels, because if you have blogs and then you can share them. Yeah. How about Klaus?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the target audience, and I would say the most reads or views so far I have in a fintech blog, where I have like 17,000 reads of my expert take. And LinkedIn is more, I would say, for practitioners, and Twitter is probably more for academics. So it depends a little bit on what's the target audience, and depending on that, I would position my media coverage. This is what I would do.
Do we have more questions? Or...
Now you have a chance to ask more if you want to, our audience.
But Tommy, could you just reflect on the channel question?
Yes, thank you. I think that also this issue is relatively complex. On the one hand, one might say, or we have good reasons to think that the more channels the researcher uses, the better chances he or she has that the message finds right persons. But at the same time, I think, and this is perhaps more like my personal view or personal opinion, I think that it's also relevant that any researcher finds a suitable channel for him or her. And it does not necessarily matter that much that one uses as many channels as possible, but it might be more fruitful if one can find at least one suitable channel. But of course, things and situations, circumstances are different, and especially if we speak about larger research teams, it's quite natural that a team uses several channels. But if the focus is on one individual researcher, then I would say that it's a very honorable target to find at least one channel to use as a medium for science communication and popularization.
And I can also add here that that's really true, and we had a really good position that we had a big team. So we were 8 together. So I think that was also, without a team, we couldn't have the Etätyö Kompassi, so the web page, because I think that even though I said that LinkedIn was the most important channel to sort of share our knowledge, but the most important thing was that we had this Etätyö Kompassi. So we had this one place where we collected different types of things and then tried to share that, okay, come here, here are so many interesting things, so have a look. So I think that that's really important point, that having more people makes it possible to make also it bigger.
So it's cooperation, and then there is the thing of hybrid media environment, which means that when you publish in one channel, it tends to spread into other, from social media to traditional media, and so on. And we have a question from the public.
Adam Smale says, congratulations to all award winners. Typically, the research we do is very complex, and the results are often far from simple to interpret. And yet many in the public sphere will want simple answers and guidance. How do we do this in science communication?
Klaus, you are dealing with very complex questions. How do we do it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we, if you communicate to an audience that is not so interested in the methods, but more in the results, that we basically focus then on the key results that we have been analyzed, let's say, and to break it down into simple language so that everybody understands. This is what I would say the most important thing, and yeah, I would say that's, of course, that's what we have to do.
It depends on the topic also.
It depends on the topic. Yeah, exactly. That's so true.
I could add here before I say to Liisa that it's also so that it's our responsibility as researchers to explain that the world is not simple. So we have to, even though it's kind of a paradox that they expect right answers, so to say, and black and white, but the world is not black and white. What do you say, Liisa?
Well, yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. Yeah, I think that we of course need also to, as Klaus said, that we need to pick up parts of the most important findings. So not try to tell all methodological aspects. So if we don't have longitudinal data, what does that mean? And if that analysis has been made that and that way, people are not interested, as you said in your opening words, that people are not that interested about those kind of issues. But we can select those parts which are sort of telling about the complexity of the phenomena, but still telling something that really reveals something new. And then people, or it can even be that it doesn't reveal something new, but it also sort of confirms something that people have been wondering if that might go like that. And then we have some results that are saying, yes, actually, it seems that it really goes like that. So people are, yes, finally, I have some support for my own thoughts. So that's also an important thing.
And makes it personal as well.
Yes, that's true.
Do we have more? No? Okay, then I have more difficult questions here about the key elements in succeeding in science communication. But let's start with Tommi. What do you say? What do you think are the key elements for example, having conversation with the public and the media? How do you see what are the elements?
Yeah, a very, very tricky, thorny question because there are so many important elements. Maybe I still would like to continue emphasizing the importance of framing this results of scientific studies and even the whole topics in the way that people, the audience, can find some sort of surface or contact point that is relevant in view of their own life. So some sort of concretization or relation to some general human interest is often helpful for popularizing science. In addition to that, I would say that even if in different fields in science, there are, of course, pretty big differences in respect to how easy or how difficult popularizing of the results in that particular field is. I would say still that there are some general ideas that might be useful to take into account. And probably two very simple means for any field of science is that if you want to approach the general public, you should at least attempt to find certain kind of concrete examples, relevant and concrete examples. And you should also try to find perhaps some metaphors, because in science, in different fields, we often use and discuss very abstract issues and problems. And if you can give some sort of flesh around the bones by using suitable examples and even metaphors, that might help you a lot.
Thank you, Tommy. Klaus, what do you think? What are the key elements of succeeding, for example, with the media? And what is bad popularization?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I can give a straight answer to that. I would say the most important thing is that you keep it at the truth, that you report the truth. The thing is that about in finance, for instance, 80% of papers or 80% of so-called research studies are not, they fail scientific replication. And it's the same thing also in psychological science. There's even 95% as far as I know. So the problem is as soon as you report something that is not true, people will figure it out, and then it's game over. It's game over here at the university, and it's also game over for the public, because then the public loses the interest, right? So I think everything starts with that researchers have a certain level of competence, and that you don't report wrong results. I mean, if someone has a paper and reports the T statistic and has eight observations, I mean, you can't do that, right? I mean, you can't do that. And some people get anyways away, and they get their papers published, but people will figure out that that's nonsense. And so keep it at the truth. That is what I would say is the most important thing.
That's very true. Liisa, key elements in success.
Well, I think that there came already so many good points, but what to add here? I think that related also to this truth issue, but also to these concrete issues, is that when researchers are working with the topics they are interested about themselves, that makes it sort of honest, and the impression about the telling about your study is real experience. And if you are not interested about the topic at all, or you are sort of bored to it, so I think that audience really easily get that image to themselves, and they are not interested either. So I think that it's also important that we do the work we think that is meaningful and important.
So it's authentic in a
Yes.
way. So.
Yes.
Can I just add one small thing to that? Of course, I mean, I agree to the extent that one needs to have a certain interest in the topic under investigation. But let's say if I would invest in Bitcoin and everybody would know it, then I would write a paper that tells everybody you should buy cryptocurrencies. That goes wrong as well. So I mean, it's good to have interest, but one needs to have also a certain let's say, distance to that, so that my results are trustworthy, right? I mean, because if one has an agenda, then then research goes wrong.
So there's involvement and
Yes.
involvement.
Yeah, there's it's a small line, but I mean, one needs to be careful in that as well.
Yes,
I guess.
Mhm.
Then we have a question from the audience.
Yes, Hamid asks how to popularize the idea of falsifiability, that research is not set in stone and really shouldn't be.
Tommy is very good at this.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Yeah. Now, I guess regarding popularizing the concept of, or the idea, or the phenomenon of falsifiability, I guess that also in the case of this example or concept, one might try to start from trying to find concrete examples where falsification has been taken place. And one might say that a very much used, maybe too well-known example is that regarding to or related to black swans. Namely, as one could expect, people usually expect around the world that based on their earlier experiences, that whenever they encounter a new swan, that's most probably even with a very extremely high probability a white swan. But we know from the history and partly from experience, especially those who have visited Australia may have seen by their own eyes that it is not true that all swans are white, but there are also black swans. That's probably a very simple example case of falsification, where the claim that all swans are white was falsified by encountering black swans.
Anybody want to add? Liisa?
Yeah, I fully agree on that. So I mean, we know much more what is wrong and than what we know what is right. And of course, that's an issue that one needs to talk more about in research.
Yes, there's always the understanding that people want us to be sure and they want the right answer. And that's the same thing that we actually have discussed already, that we cannot give the final answer. And we should remember to always to say that this is what we know right now. So according to our present knowledge, but that's not what, for example, the journalist wants. They won't print that. They will print the result. Next question.
Yes, there is a question from Sovis. She says, great talk. I would like to ask you if you have any advice for an aspiring science communicator, and background would be Master of Science, not PhD, on how to find work in the field without a background in journalism. So how to find work as a science communicator without a background in journalism. Merja, you might want to answer to this.
I'm not sure if I heard what you say.
She would like to ask if any one of you have any advice for an aspiring science communicator on how to find work in the field without a background in journalism.
Many good science communicators come from research. So when they do their masters, they find themselves in the path. Of course, journalism is one skill that you need to have. And if you want to be a successful science communicator, you probably need to master some of the skills that a journalist would have. But a full journalist education is not perhaps the thing that the most successful science communicators have. Background in journalism helps reaching out to the public, but then there are, of course, other skills being able to, for example, visualize, being able to grasp different kinds of difficult ideas and putting them into words and pictures and visuals so that they are generally understandable. But I would say that knowing something about research, knowing something about the topic, because many science communicators are specialized. So if you are specialized in, for example, medicine, there are people who are medicine science communicators where there is work. And of course, starting to write and starting to sell one's production, that's one thing that you can do for starters to have a career in science communication, which is actually quite an exciting thing to have. Mm-hmm. So good luck. Do we have more? Then we have a question about challenges of science communication. So let's start, Liisa. What do you see as the biggest challenges?
Time. we are short in time all the time. Yeah. So of course there are so many needs, and in academic field I think that we are so much pushed on writing academic papers, academic reports, and then it's too easy to push aside of those things that where we actually should also be very active. So I would say that time is the most biggest challenge for me, at least.
That's a good answer, Klaus.
Yeah, I fully agree on that. It's of course time, and the other challenge I would say is perhaps that you need to get familiar with all the tools as well, and they have to work as well. So some of the tools have been freeware, and then after some time you have to pay for it, and then you have to figure out some new freeware, or you pay for it. You know, you can decide. So it's not that straightforward. So there are some challenges on the way, of course.
When we talk about challenges, there are I think two kinds of challenges. There are the challenges of us wanting to communicate, but there's also the thing that we don't want to communicate. So researchers are shy in publishing their results. How do you see that, Tommi, as a challenge? Yeah. How can we make people more interested in sharing?
Yeah, okay, shyness is psychologically a very complex phenomenon. I think that partly why science communicators or researchers might feel a little bit shy when they consider whether to publish in for example, in social media, or maybe even in mass media. They research ideas and results and consideration. One reason might be, especially in the case of social media, that researchers also we are also humans, and if we publish something in media, we make us potentially vulnerable to all kinds of critical reactions. Now, I think that at least in some cases, researchers, they also consider that is it wise to publish this, because this may raise some unfortunate or negative reactions. And anyway, I guess that all professionals, not only researchers, but all professionals who write something or make public presentations, researchers also are self-critical, and they may think that I'm not completely sure whether I can find right words to speak to a larger audience about these ideas or these results. It's easier to remain inside a civilized academic circles where you can trust that your colleagues at least are not too aggressive or give you a very, very critical feedback. Now, of course, you can get critical feedback also from reviewers, but that's probably largely a different thing than those critical reactions that you can get from a larger audience.
Thank you, Tommy. This is an important point. Klaus, how do you see this kind of a social media criticism and undue all kinds of discussions and crisis online?
I mean, so far I have no negative experience from that, but I would like just to add here to this issue. I mean, isn't it so that the internet actually lowers the threshold for people of being shy? I mean, and then I was also wondering, okay, I mean, if I'm telling the truth, do I have to hide myself? Probably not. So I mean, that's why I was wondering, okay, I mean, if people don't want to talk about their research, why? Why is that? I mean, in the end of the day, it's a part of our profession, at least to my understanding. It's education, it's research, then research communication and funding application. These are the four key issues that we have to deal with. And then we have to allocate the time. Okay, how much of my time do I do this, and this? That's basically how it's, in the end of the day, how we can break down the workload of an academic.
Yeah, that's a good point, that it's not only about academic writing, it's also about science communication. How do you see the challenges, Liisa?
Well, I was thinking when Tommy and Klaus were talking that there is also this very long tradition in academia that we first go through all the big procedures with our articles. So it might take even 2-3 years once we get our work published, one article. So it goes to the reviewers and we get criticism and we work on that and then again send it there. And then after all that work, we might be so tired and it seems to be even old study once it's finally published. So we are sort of working on three different topics already and we hardly even remember that we have worked with that thing. So maybe also letting go of that traditional view that we can only tell about the things after something has been going through this big peer review processes. So that's also something that might also be linked to the thinking that people are not eager to tell about their research, but they perhaps just work on the new things and don't even remember to report on the sort of old things that get to the goal.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that's a reality that we live in. If we go back to this social media bashing and things, there are two advice. Get friends, because it's social media. When you have friends, you are safer. And get binoculars, because when you look at from the further, you see it in a right perspective. We have a question.
Hamid asked a very good question, I think. Should science communication and popularizing research maybe somehow be an integral part of all university education? And he also thanks Tommy for your answer.
Okay, Liisa, should science communication be, is it actually?
Yeah.
I think it might be.
Yeah, I also think that it partly it is already in the, if we think the bachelor's and master's.
In our language center uses courses in this as well.
Yeah. So we have these kind of integrated parts already in our education system, and I also think that these new kind of procedures we have sort of once your master's thesis is ready, you need to communicate it with a video or not this sort of old way to show that that's your own work. So I think that we already have there, at least in some extent, we have that kind of issues already. And in the doctoral education as well, I think that there it has more space than in the sort of basic education level.
How do you see, Klaus? Is it necessary for example, finance masters?
I think one gets enough help on the way.
Yeah. How about Tom?
Anyway, it would be helpful, or at least it would not cause no harm if one get at least some sort of know some basics of how to popularize science. But of course, persons are different and their roles are different. So I'm not definitely thinking that everyone should be a science popularizer. We are different persons. We have different strengths and different interests, but at least some basics in this field would be probably useful for almost anyone.
Thank you. Do we have more questions? Are we ready for our final round? For final words? In this debate, I mean, not otherwise. I would think that we would say something about encouraging people and encouraging researchers to science communication and societal interaction in another way. So how do you see, Liisa, in a more like wide perspective? What could encourage people to participate, and what does it give and what does it take?
Well, I think that we have already discussed about these issues quite well already, but I think that I would encourage everyone in the academia to give their perspectives open for and be open for discussion, and also encourage all people, experts in working life and anyone who are interested about the topics and want to learn more in life, be brave and participate. Science is nothing that is sort of rocket science is something special or that kind of thing. So I think that that's the issue that belongs to everyone. So we all can contribute on the discussion about what is important in academia and academic discussion and in research. So I think that everyone can think that it's her or his thing, and that the role can be participating to the discussion in a wider sense.
Thank you. Klaus, how do you see the role of social interaction? I could put it differently to you. How do you see the role of society, like steering what you should do research on?
Yeah, I think that's an important issue. I mean, in the end of the day, it's the taxpayer who pays my salary, right? And therefore they have also the right to somehow direct what I'm interested in, or what I should be interested in. And of course, I mean, in my case, I can just talk for myself, and I can just give my own example. I cannot, talk for other people here. But in my case, I started almost 10 years ago with a very traditional field in finance, which is asset pricing. And I guess all of us know that the Nobel Prize has been given twice for this field of science. But of course, nowadays time has changed, and I use basically certain tools from this old traditional field and applied it to the new field in fintech. And so I think that also other people can jump on the train and think about, okay, what are people nowadays interested in? What is the mainstream interested in? And then I can just adjust my own research or adapt to what people actually want to know. And I think that's what everybody should do, because it's the taxpayer who pay the salary, right? So they have something to say.
It's also brave not being in the path already gone for, so it takes courage to go somewhere else.
Yes, of course. But Charles Darwin said, the one survives who's most adaptable to change, and not necessarily the most intelligent. So we need to adapt to changes, I think.
Yeah, good answer. How about Tommi? How do you see this interaction, societal interaction, about researchers deciding what to do research on, and to which degree should we allow other forces to say what we are doing and why?
I would say, first of all, that of course it's important that researchers can maintain certain kind of independence and autonomy, meaning that they should be free based on scientific reasons and development of science to choose their topics and approaches. This does not mean that researchers should not be open to influences from other sources than scientific community. I think University of Vaasa is a very good example of an academic institution where the researchers have a very good and close connections to economic and social life in this region and internationally. From a more general perspective, I think that in terms of this social or societal aspect, what is important and actually very good thing in popularizing science, it is the fact that the researcher comes almost necessarily aware of different aspects of human nature. Namely, one could say that there are at least two basic types of people. Some are more problem-centered, or they focus on problems, and other types of people are more focused on solutions. And I think that both of these aspects, problems and solutions, are important and relevant when you start to popularize science. You have to identify interesting and relevant problems. But I think that in many cases, the larger audience is especially interested and would like to know about interesting and fruitful solutions to certain relevant problems. And that's something that the science communicator or popularizer has to take into account, these both sides, problems and solutions.
This was very good ending. I thank Liisa and Klaus for this discussion, and Tommi, and especially the audience who have been with us, and our technical support. And we encourage all the university researchers to think about this and think about science communication as part of their work, in some respect, in the ways that are best for them. So thank you all.
Thank you.